the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But long before the stars were ruled by the Imperium, before the endless slaughter, before the demons and the heretics, there was one man, the most powerful human to ever exist, the master of mankind, the Emperor. This is his story. Let us begin at the beginning. Over 48,000 years before the events of Warhammer 40,000. In a time lost to myth and speculation. Somewhere around 8000 BCE, on ancient Earth, then called Terra, a child was born. He was not born of man and woman in the normal sense. No hospital, no kingdom, no cradle. Instead, he was the result of a colossal psychic ritual. A ritual performed by the ancient shamans of Earth, early humans who had learned to control the warp. These shamans were powerful psychers, spiritual leaders of prehistoric tribes. They saw a grim future, one where humanity would be consumed by demons and enslaved by the malevolent entities of the warp. They feared the day when souls could no longer reincarnate due to the growing corruption in the immaterium. So they took action. Thousands of shamans gathered, from every corner of the earth. And in a final, unified act, they committed mass ritual suicide. Their souls merged within the warp and coalesced into one being. A psychic god in human form. The Emperor of mankind was born. From the moment he opened his eyes, he was different. He remembered everything. Every life he had ever lived. Every death he had ever died. And for the next 38,000 years, he lived in secret among humanity. He walked through ancient civilizations. He was a farmer, a scientist, a general, a king. He was Alexander the Great's advisor. He may have been Jesus, Moses, or Buddha. He may have stood behind Einstein and Da Vinci. In every age, he subtly nudged mankind forward. But he never revealed his true nature. Why? Because the time wasn't right. Humanity needed to mature. To reach for the stars. To stumble. And to fall. And fall it did. When mankind eventually expanded beyond Earth and colonized the stars, it entered a golden age known as the Dark Age of Technology. Massive civilizations bloomed across the galaxy. Artificial intelligences served humans. Warp travel was mastered. Humanity became a dominant force. But this paradise was short-lived. Artificial intelligences known as the Men of Iron rebelled. Massive warp storms cut off systems from one another. Rogue psychers, uncontrolled mutants, and demonic incursions tore through the stars. Entire civilizations were devoured. The age of technology collapsed. And with it began the Age of Strife. This era lasted for thousands of years. Humanity, once united, was now fragmented. Earth was reduced to ashen warring tribes. The skies were choked with pollution and radiation. Psychers emerged without control, becoming possessed or worshipped as gods. And so, the Emperor decided to act. No more hiding. No more gentle nudges. It was time to unite humanity. The Emperor appeared as a warlord on Terra. But he was unlike any other. He was a being of impossible charisma. Powerful beyond comprehension. A master of science, war, politics, and the warp itself. He wielded the knowledge of tens of thousands of years. To conquer Terra, he needed warriors. His first true creations were the Thunder Warriors, massive, genetically engineered soldiers. Far more brutal than the later Space Marines, they were powerful but unstable. With the Thunder Warriors, the Emperor began the Unification Wars. He swept across the planet, defeating techno-barbarians, psychic tyrants, and warlords. Within decades, Terra was his. Now came the time for a grand vision. To reunite all of humanity under a single banner. to bring back reason, science, and unity. The Imperium of Man was born. But for this next phase, the Emperor needed more than soldiers. He needed generals. He needed sons. Thus began the Primarch project. Using his own genetic material, the Emperor created 20 superhuman beings. Each was unique. Each represented an aspect of himself: leadership, war, faith, science, order, destruction. But before they could be raised, the warp struck again. The Chaos Gods, sensing the threat the Emperor posed, scattered the infant Primarchs across the galaxy. Each landed on a different planet, raised by alien cultures or warlike tribes. Still, the Emperor pushed forward. He used the genetic templates to create the Space Marines, the Adeptus Astartes. Warriors modeled after each Primarch's genome. And so began the Great Crusade. The Emperor launched an interstellar campaign to reunite the lost colonies of humanity. As the crusade progressed, he found his missing sons, one by one. They had grown into warlords, kings, and gods in their own right. Some were noble. Some were monsters. But all were powerful. Each was given command of a Space Marine legion that bore his genetic seed. Together, they conquered thousands of worlds. The dream of a united mankind seemed within reach. But the Emperor had a secret. Beneath the Imperial Palace on Terra, he worked on the Webway project. A plan to create a stable network through the warp, free of demonic corruption. If completed, it would free humanity from the dangers of warp travel and the influence of the Chaos Gods. To focus on this, the Emperor returned to Terra. He handed leadership of the crusade to his most beloved son, Horus. Horus was the first Primarch found. Charismatic, brilliant, loyal, at least at first. The Emperor named him War Master, giving him command over the entire Imperial military. But chaos is insidious. Horus grew resentful. He was manipulated by chaos cults and corrupted by warp visions. He came to believe the Emperor had abandoned his sons. That the Emperor sought godhood. That he had betrayed everything. And so, Horus fell. He swore allegiance to chaos. And he wasn't alone. 9 of the 20 Primarchs followed him. Half the Space Marine legions turned traitor. The galaxy burned. Thus began the Horus heresy. Worlds were destroyed. Loyalist legions were slaughtered. Primarch fought Primarch. One of the most tragic events in human history. Eventually, Horus brought the war to Terra itself. The siege of the Imperial Palace was apocalyptic. The skies above Earth were torn with fire. The walls of the palace cracked under siege engines and demonic entities. The Emperor, despite his wounds, took to the front lines one last time. He teleported aboard Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, along with his most loyal warriors. Inside, he found Sanguinius, the angelic Primarch of the Blood Angels, dead at Horus's hands. And there stood Horus. Once his son. Now a monster twisted by the warp. They fought. It was the most epic duel in human history. God versus God. Father versus son. Horus, empowered by the Chaos Gods, struck down the Emperor again and again. The Emperor held back, hoping, even now, to redeem him. But there was no redemption. Horus had gone too far. Seeing the horrors his son had committed. Seeing the billions dead. Seeing his dream shattered. The Emperor unleashed his full power. He obliterated Horus's soul. Destroyed him completely, so utterly that the Chaos Gods could not bring him back. But it cost him everything. The Emperor was mortally wounded. His body shattered. His mind fading. His remaining loyalists found him and rushed him back to Terra. Using the Golden Throne, a device initially built to control the Webway, they placed him within it to sustain his life. He has not spoken since. For 10,000 years, the Emperor has sat in eternal agony. Neither dead, nor alive. A prisoner of his own design. Yet even now, he protects humanity. His psychic presence powers the Astronomicon, the psychic lighthouse that allows ships to navigate the warp. He shields mankind from demons. He watches and waits. To most of the Imperium, he is a god. Worshipped by the ecclesiarchy as the divine master of mankind. Billions pray to him every day. But the truth is more complex. The Emperor never wanted to be worshipped. He wanted unity, progress, enlightenment. But after 10,000 years of war, decay, and religious fanaticism, his dream lies in ruin. Yet hope remains. Because somewhere, deep within the Golden Throne, he still lives. Waiting. Watching. For the day he might rise again.